Welcome to the Neurocritical Immersion. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about Abbe Faria, the Goan priest who reimagined hypnotism, from Mesmer's theatrical magnetism to modern neuroscience. And this, of course, is based on the writings of the Nobel laureate Dr. Egas Moniz. Before Faria, 18th century Europe was mesmerized literally by Franz Anton Mesmer and his theatrical claims of healing through invisible magnetic forces. In candlelit Parisian salons, elite audiences witnessed dramatic convulsions and trances induced by magnetized tubs and iron rods. Frank Mesmer explained the phenomena observed in his treatments, such as trances, convulsions, and alleged cures, as the effects of an invisible, universal, natural force he called animal magnetism. His explanation centered on the following points. He talked about a universal fluid, a subtle, invisible force that permeated the universe and all living bodies. He talked about balance and blockages, and he claimed that health depended on the free and balanced flow of this fluid through the body's channels. He talked about manipulation for healing and believed that a trained practitioner or magnetizer could manipulate this fluid to remove blockages and restore balance. And he talked about the crisis, the process of restoring this balance often led to this crisis, which included dramatic physical and emotional reactions. The spectacle, therefore, was candlelit Parisian salons, magnetized tubs and iron rods, dramatic convulsions and trances, elite audiences captivated by all the mystery that was going on. In 1784, a commission led by Benjamin Franklin, no less a person, arrived at the following conclusions. There was no magnetic fluid that existed, but the phenomena observed were real. The explanation was therefore false, but the experience was real. This contradiction would haunt European medicine for decades. So, the question that emerged was, if there is no magnetic fluid, what is actually producing these altered states of mind? Abbey Faria was born in 1756 in Candolim in Goa. The Goan conspiracy of 1787 forced him into exile, uprooting his life and sending him to Europe. In Rome, he studied theology and philosophy, immersing himself in classical and Enlightenment thought. And in revolutionary Paris, he taught philosophy and observed Mesmerists with growing skepticism about their mystical claims. In 1813, in Rue de Clichy, he opened a lecture hall that would change the history of psychology and mind sciences forever. Jose Custodio de Faria was a priest ordained in the Catholic tradition, grounded in contemplative practice, a philosopher trained in rigorous European intellectual traditions, and a scientist of the mind, a pioneering observer of consciousness and mental phenomena. And when people came to his lecture hall, they arrived expecting theatrical magnetism, waving hands, mystical rods, and dramatic performances. What they encountered was something profoundly different. The phenomena Faria demonstrated included visual hallucinations of absent people, gustatory and olfactory hallucinations, hallucinations of taste and smell, strong emotional responses to imagined scenes, post-hypnotic memory that lingered long after waking, and motor automatisms limbed that moved involuntarily. But his method did not involve waving hands, magnetic rods, or indeed theatre. Just one word, dorme, sleep. A single word spoken with quiet authority. The subject would then enter a calm, focused, and responsive state. No force required, no mysticism invoked. So the radical claim that he made was that the cause of hypnosis does not lie in the operator. It lies in the subject. And for the first time in European history, hypnosis was described as a psychological state arising from within, not a mystical force imposed from without. And this very thought was revolutionary at the time. Today, of course, neuroscience confirms using functional MRI and EEG what Faria observed intuitively through careful attention and observation. Hypnosis is not sleep, it's not surrender, it's not magic, it's a distinct brain network state. Multiple brain networks, about 5 of them, are evoked during hypnosis, and Faria's insights were years ahead of their time, more than 200 years ahead of their time, and he anticipated neuroscience by a couple of centuries. And in 1813 was the year when Faria opened his revolutionary lecture hall and made his first demonstrations. Which are the brain networks then that get affected during hypnosis? The executive control network, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which has been the subject of many of our podcasts, becomes highly focused. Attention is stable, sustained, and deeply absorbed. The default mode network, which again we refer to constantly, has self-referential thinking suppressed. The inner narrative fades, experiences feel real and unquestioned. The salience network, the perception is reweighted, internal suggestions gain unusual importance over external reality. Motor networks, intention and execution become separate, movements feel involuntary, and action occurs without conscious command. And the predictive processing network, the brain's expectations override sensory input. The suggestion becomes the reality experienced by the consciousness. So all these networks get activated when a person is in a state of hypnosis. And what does this mean for healing? Faria demonstrated 200 years ago that the mind is malleable. Perception can be reshaped. Change requires receptivity and focused attention, and healing depends on individual participation. Indeed, much of this today is the foundation of modern psychotherapy, and this brings us to what it can be used for: trauma therapy and PTSD treatment, the management of chronic pain, habit change and addiction recovery, various mindfulness-based interventions, and indeed in neurorehabilitation. The impact is across all these different diseases and domains. Faria's descriptions of hypnotic states echo contemplative traditions that he may well have encountered during his studies. Standing at the crossroads of East and West, spirituality and science, he would have thought about perhaps yoga dharana, single-pointed concentration that stills the fluctuations of the consciousness. Buddhism, jnana states, deep absorptive focus achieved through systemic meditation practice. And of course, in Christianity itself, contemplative prayer leading to inner stillness and focused devotion, transcending ordinary awareness. The lessons we learn from Faria are that attention shapes our reality. What we focus on literally changes what we perceive. We have more agency over our inner experience than we believe. The capacity for change lies within us. No external force can fix us. The therapist guides, but transformation happens inside the individual. Truth often arrives before validation. Faria was right as early as 1813. He wasn't believed until the late 20th century. Truth has to be patient. And insight can come from anywhere, from the margins, from exile, from careful observation, and the courage to disagree with consensus. Faria's thoughts were not very well accepted at the time in which he lived. Today, they are far more acceptable. Long before we had brain scanners, functional imaging, or cognitive neuroscience, Abbe Faria glimpsed the deep architecture of consciousness with nothing but observation, courage, and clarity. A Goan priest who reshaped European psychology, a rational voice in a mystical age, a bridge between two worlds and two different traditions. Faria is a legacy reclaimed. Thank you so much for listening.